got kind of lucky because, sometimes with YouTube, it can be fairly soul destroying a little bit. You can put out content that you think's going to bang and it just goes nowhere. And then other times you put
Tell
out
me about
content. Yeah.
it. I've
Sometimes
been
you
there.
just
Yeah.
sometimes you're just putting out content just to put something out. You mightn't think it's going to go anywhere, and all of a sudden it just takes off. So that kind of happened to me on my third video. I was watching a lot of YouTube, and during COVID, then the lockdowns, like the only things you could really do were, I suppose, for exercise, like running and cycling went out. Like a lot of people spent a lot of money on kind of new runners and road bike, and it was mad to get good at all these kind of sports. And the only place I could really go for advice was YouTube. Nothing else to be doing at the moment, so I hopped on.
No, that's good. So you were working till 7, are you?
No, so today I was actually minding my son. Did a bit of work this morning, but then I've had my son then till my wife came home from work. She got home about 6 o'clock.
All right.
And so I actually had one of my YouTube videos going live there at about 6:45. So that's up now. So I was just doing a few thumbnails and artwork for Instagram and so on.
Aye, that's the hard part of this job, eh?
It is, yeah. It's very, tenuous a little bit, but it probably looks easy and quick, but it's those little things that take a lot of time, a lot of effort, and you can't really
Yeah.
half-heart them, I don't think.
No, I've been doing this for a year now. I was doing it in a kind of previous capacity with a different one, but all I did was turn up, record a podcast episode, log off, and that was it. Somebody else did all the editing, did all the stuff, put it out. And then when I went solo and I was doing this one, I realised I was what's it, chef, chief cook and bottle washer or whatever whatever it works out as, and you've got to do everything. So I struggled to try to come up with thumbnails and how you get them recognised and do all the bits and pieces. I mean, I think I've kind of found my groove now with them. God bless Canva templates.
Yeah, I don't know what we do without Canva. I think that's kind of made it all possible, to be honest. I don't know if I would have done this whole creator thing without Canva, to be honest now, because it would have just been so much work and I wouldn't know where to start. But Canva
Yeah.
takes all the hard work out of it.
Yeah, I was talking to so this is obviously similar to yours. This isn't my full-time job, so I do have an actual job that pays the bills. And when I was at work today and we were chatting away, and I was saying to one of the guys, I was like, see, getting somebody on for a chat, having a conversation, fine, right? The editing process, I've got down to a bit of a T now. I'm happy with that. It's all the extra stuff that goes along with it, the having to post content every day, making sure you're staying kind of relevant and ahead of the trends, is very difficult. And we've, fortunately enough, in Scotland, we've got like the Business Gateway. So I went to a couple of courses that they were running. They were free. And they were like an introduction to Canva, how to get the best out of social media and things. So they gave me a bit of direction because everything was a bit all over the place to start with. I think I've now kind of found my groove and I know where I'm kind of putting stuff out there. But yeah, it's very difficult.
Yeah.
There's a reason these people are full-time content creators.
I know, yeah. That's the dream, isn't it? Getting big enough so that you can pay people to do all the donkey work, like, but no,
Exactly.
it takes up a lot of time.
I mean, I found this shirt, look. That was my purchase from New York. I'm like, golf influencer. It was in the New York golf shop or something. I was like, I'm going to have that.
Yeah, well, you have to manifest, don't you? Like, I mean,
Yeah,
so
you
it's
do.
like walking around with your vision board on show, like, so.
Yeah, exactly. Right, perfect. Thanks very much for jumping on the podcast today. I know I'd reached out to you before after discovering the YouTube channel, and yeah, I like the content that you were putting out, so I thought I'll get in touch with you, see if you want to come on and have a bit of a chat, just explain your golf story, how you go into it. I've done a bit of a dive through some of your YouTube videos and stuff, but it's always better to, I feel, to kind of wing these interviews and just have a conversation between pals. I think you get the best out of them without it being too scripted. So if you just want to give yourself a bit of an introduction and just how you got into the game, and we can kind of take it from there.
Yeah, so my name's Jamie. So I'm a golf content creator from Ireland. I'm based in Wicklow, which is just south of Dublin, for those who might be reasonably familiar with Irish geography. My YouTube and social media is Diary of a High Handicapper, so that probably gives away a lot of my golf story and my ability more so. But Yeah, I got into golf pretty late in life, I would say, later than a lot of people, it would seem. I kind of took up the game when I was 33, I think. So it was 2019, kind of second half of 2019, I decided to take it up, got myself a few lessons and was doing that. And then I was planning on joining a course like in 2020, then all of a sudden COVID hit and so on. So it was kind of on the back burner. So in Ireland, we had pretty stringent lockdowns or long lockdowns. So I was kind of going a bit stir crazy. I found this, sport that I was absolutely addicted to from day one. All I wanted to do was practice, couldn't stop thinking about it. But I couldn't do it really. So I was watching a lot of YouTube and during COVID, then the lockdowns, like the only things you could really do were I suppose for exercise, like running and cycling went out. Like a lot of people spent a lot of money on kind of new runners and road bike, and it was mad to get good at all these kind of sports. And the only place I could really go for advice was YouTube. And just
Mhm.
through that, I just was watching normal everyday people kind of giving up their time, whether it be in running, cycling, or even golf. And I just thought it was a really good resource. And then I thought that I might have an interesting story then, being someone who took up the game late in life. I mean, the initial goal for the channel was to show, someone taking up the game, if they work hard, bit of practice, bit of perseverance, maybe getting some help through golf lessons and so on, to try and showcase to others how you might be able to improve at the game. Hasn't really worked out that way so far. So we're about 5 years down the road, and some days I wonder, have I improved at all? Some days I think I'm getting worse. But that was the plan initially, was to try and showcase, someone taking up the sport in their mid 30s and showcasing how to get better at the game. Yeah, like that. So I suppose that's the backstory to the channel.
hmm And
Yeah.
then it's just obviously grown from there over the last 3 or 4 years now.
Yeah, so I was quite lucky in that it was kind of my third video that just took off out of nowhere. So the first video it was a 10-minute introduction, just saying who I was, what the plan was. I mean, at the start of that, in that video, I announced it was going to be a weekly blog or a weekly vlog. So I don't know what I was thinking. Obviously, I had a lot more time on my hands back then. That was before I got married and had my son and set up my business and stuff. So I did have a bit more time to practice, but it certainly hasn't, worked out that way as a weekly blog. But yeah, it's sorry, I lost my train of thought there. Yeah, what were we?
Just about how you took it up kind of later on in life and the kind of goals for the channel from there.
Yeah, sorry. Sorry. Sorry, must be a little bit nervous there. But yeah, it was my third video. So like the first channel was just an intro. The first video was just an introduction. The second one then was just going down to the driving range, kind of showcasing my swing, because I thought it'd be like a real like storyboard almost, like so people would tune in and follow the story along each week.
Yeah.
But then the third one was the first time I went down and actually played on the course. So it was just an every shot video. I think I was off. My course handicap was off 30 or something on the day. I think I did okay. There was some horrendous shots in there. And yeah, like even the first 2 or 3 weeks, nothing really happened. Like I was probably sitting on 20, 30 views. And then I think I woke up one morning and I just saw like I had added about 500 subscribers and was getting loads of comments, and it just kind of took off from there. So I think I got to the 1,000 subscriber mark after my third video. So I'd only been at it a couple of months at that stage. So I got kind of lucky because, sometimes with YouTube, it can be fairly soul destroying a little bit. You can put out content that you think's going to bang and it just goes nowhere. And then other times you put out content. Yeah.
I've
Sometimes
been there.
you
Yeah.
sometimes you're just putting out content just to put something out. You mightn't think it's going to go anywhere, and all of a sudden it just takes off. So that kind of happened to me on my third video, which was great. I can't really put my finger on exactly what it was or why people liked it so much, but it certainly captured a bit of attention for me early on, and ever since then the channel has grown steadily. Like at this stage, I'm only really averaging about 6 videos a year. So in the kind of summer months, or the golf season, I kind of put out once a month. I'd love to be doing a lot more, and my intention is to be doing it a lot more this year. But I'm lucky enough now that, as you said at the start, like I've got into a bit of a groove. I kind of know what people like from my videos. I have a format, so the editing's quicker. And now, when I do put out a course video, touch wood, they tend to average about, I'd say 50 or 60,000, which is pretty
Yeah.
incredible. Still blows my mind, that so many people watch the videos regularly. But yeah, if you asked me why they were so popular, or am I doing anything magic in the background to push them, not at all. Just, I still count myself very lucky that people tune in to watch them.
Oh, well, I was hoping you were going to give me the wee silver bullet there. I'm in the exact same stage as you. So these podcasts, they go out as an audio on the Tuesday, and then they go out as a video on the Thursday.
Yeah.
And it's like it will be a video like this, and you having a conversation. And then what I'm trying to do now is put videos out on a Sunday that is something a bit different. So I played around the golf the other Saturday, 9 holes with my pal, and we just put the camera up, set the camera up, and we just walked and talked. And I'm going to go and play with. I've got three of my pals. We're going to a course in Fife on Saturday, so I'm going to take the camera with me and try and record stuff. But you're absolutely right. You can spend ages doing videos, and you think this is the best thing I've created. I feel like Spielberg here, and then nobody watches it, and you're like, this is soul destroying. And then you maybe stick out a YouTube short and do that. That's, to be fair, that's where I seem to be getting a lot of kind of traction with, is the YouTube shorts. But you maybe stick out a YouTube short that's taking you 30 seconds to put together because you've had to put something out, and it hits. YouTube is hard. Golf is hard. YouTube golf is hard, and YouTube is hard. So I don't know why we put ourselves through it sometimes.
Yeah, yeah, like I'm glad, like, I'm just glad that I do enjoy the editing process, and I know we were talking about like all the time and effort that goes into creating the thumbnails on Canva and so on, but like ultimately it is just a hobby for me. So I'm lucky that I don't see it really as a job or a chore. Like, I'm doing it because I want to do it. So then when it does take off, like, it makes it a little bit worthwhile. But I think you kind of have to like the whole process, really. I think, if you're putting too much pressure on yourself and getting too deflated if people aren't watching it, yeah, look, it does hurt. Like, you do put it out hoping that people will watch it because you've spent the time. But ultimately, like, for me, it is just a hobby. It's something that I like doing. And I just see it as practice, if nothing else, that, like, I'm just building up, I suppose, my expertise at editing or graphic design or whatever. So I think you do have to have a bit of a passion for the editing and the graphic work as well.
Yeah, I think, see if I can give an opinion on your video then, right, as to why
Yeah.
you potentially are blown up then. You're dead relatable, right? You're a normal guy, a family man, you're working, you've got kids, you enjoy going out and playing the game that everybody that watches YouTube golf likes to play. There's no airs and graces as well. Like, none of the shots. If you hit bad shots, you put out bad shots.
Yeah.
I think sometimes with YouTube golf, it can be so false and manipulated to make it look like every shot that everybody hits is really good. That's why when I found your channel and I thought, this is a guy I can probably relate to. I am a high handicapper as well. I'm a 17, 18, around about that. And actually, an interesting story for you. So you've been playing for 5 years.
Yeah.
And I read up that you got yourself down from 30 to, what are you sitting at, 22 just now, is that right?
Yeah, 22.4, yeah.
So you've lost 8 shots off your handicap in 5 years, right? I've been playing for 30 years. I started playing when I was 12, right, with my dad. And my first handicap I ever got was 28, and I'm now off 18. So I've lost 10 shots in 30 years. So you are well ahead of the curve as far as I'm concerned.
Yeah, I do always try and caveat it though. Like, when I was actually 27 was my actual index, but I would have had course handicaps of like 30, 31, 32, depending on where I was playing. But, I'm always a bit squeamish when I tell people 5 years, because as far as I'm concerned, first 6 months was a write off with COVID. And then once my son was born, or when my wife got pregnant, 2023, I didn't play a single round, so like, in my head, I'm always telling people, like, in actual playing terms, it's probably only 3 years, but that's just me coming up with excuses. If you follow my channel, I love an excuse now, trying to caveat why I haven't improved as much. But yeah, look, I wouldn't be surprised now if, when I come up to the 30-year mark, if I'm on the 10-shot mark as well. I just can't believe at how slow progress has been, let's call it. But it's just, look, it's a very difficult game. It's, banging your head against a wall sometimes. Feels like you're getting nowhere. But, then when you do have the good rounds, there's no better feeling. So it's just all about trying to stick in with it, stay there until you get to those rounds. But thanks for I suppose saying the stuff about the channel. I do hear that a lot, like that it is relatable. So the key thing for me was to show warts and all. Like I really do want it to be an honest reflection of my journey with the game, because I think that's, as you said, there's a lot of people who experience what I experience. There's probably a bit more now, but certainly when I started the channel, there wasn't very many people doing it or showing the beginner side of golf, because it can be embarrassing, even to this day, if I get a bad shot, I kind of am thinking like, I can't believe that's going to go out to potentially how many people, but look, ultimately it is a warts and all reflection of my experience with the game. So that's kind of why I keep them in. And I suppose it is the kind of niche that I've carved out for myself.
Yeah, and it feeds into that diary, because like a diary is meant to be an honest reflection of it, and you're doing exactly that. So I can 100% see where people are buying into what you're putting out. So I see you've obviously had a winter practice session as well, which I'm very impressed with. I start every winter saying I'm going to hit the range. My kids, my daughter's 9 and my son's 14, so they're at the older end of childhood, right? Which they still require being picked up and dropped off. I mean, I've just had to do 2 ferrying sessions, pick my son up for the gym and doing all these bits and pieces. But I do try to get out and practice. And every year I say, right, this is the year I'm going to hit the driving range. I've got a putting green in my back garden. I'm going to go and chip out the putting green and do putting, and I'm going to get really good. And then winter gets away from me, because I'm sure winters in Ireland are the same as winters in Scotland, where courses are closed, you're knee deep in snow, and you're just not getting out. So you need to try and find other ways to keep things going. So I was quite impressed that you'd gone out, you'd got a plan, and you obviously have been working on it over the winter.
Yeah, well, look, you started off that segment by saying you were impressed, but you shouldn't be too impressed now, because a bit like you, it went awry pretty quickly. So I think I did that. Yeah, so I went and got the coach, which was Donald Gleeson down in Old Connor. So he was great. So we did the lesson, started off really slow. For anyone who hasn't, I suppose, seen the lesson, it was mainly just trying to fix my posture and backswing. And I mean, the results were almost instantaneous. So I then came away, and it was coming up to Christmas and stuff, so I couldn't practice as much. But I was going down to the range doing a bit. But then the plan was, like, I kind of signed up with Donald for like a 4-lesson winter program. So we go through everything. I haven't been back to him since. So it has just been the first lesson. But genuinely, like, as you said, like the weather, I'm sure it's the same in Scotland. I have never seen weather like this in my life. Just in terms of the rainfall. Like, I think we've only had 3 days of sunshine, and we're almost through March now. So we've only had 3 dry days in all of 2026. And I mean, the wet days have been incredibly wet. It has been monsoon weather. I've never seen anything like it. So again, another excuse, but my hands really have been tied. We're trying to get down. And then when I have, like, Donald is a busy guy, so once or twice then when I have tried to organise the second lesson, our diaries just haven't matched. I mean, one time I reached out to him and he was playing one of the top US courses. Yeah, so I mean, I did have a bit of banter with him saying, well, I know where your priorities are, but I couldn't blame it. It was a kind of sponsor trip, and he even got a hole on one on it as well, so couldn't blame him. But yeah, so don't be too impressed, because like you, all my good intentions have gone awry now. And now at this stage, like, the courses hopefully will be opening properly with the full summer rules, because it's still winter rules at the moment. But probably once that opens, I just love being out on the course and handing in my cards. So that will take over. But I certainly think even with the one lesson and the practice I've been doing, I've seen a lot of improvement myself in terms of my swing and even tempo and posture and so on. So
yeah, I mean, I'm quite confident. I've been working away on kind of putting. I've got a putting mat in my office here and various accessories and stuff, and I've been working away on that, because that's always been the worst part of my game. My short game has really tightened up. I'm quite impressed with how my short game isn't. I said in a previous podcast, I was playing with my dad about a month and a half ago, and he actually commented that my putting was now decent, and I had a really good short game. A good short game. He never said really good. He would never give me that much of a praise, but you've got a good short game, which I need around my course. So as I said, I'm quite lucky. I've got that putting green in the back garden. I can work on things, and I can do wee bits of chipping and pitching around about the back garden. But I've never been one that's been a big practicer.
Yeah.
Yeah, going to the range, battering balls, it just bores me.
Mm.
I go with the best intentions. I'm quite similar to you as well. That I've had a lesson and I meant to go back and do like a series and I never quite managed it with a guy that was a pro I was going to go with. But I will definitely go back and see him this year because there is a few things I think I need to
Yeah.
get another bit of a lesson on. But yeah, certainly short game for me, I think is going to make the big difference this year, and that's what I've been working on. So, what's your strongest part of your game?
Strongest part of my game, I'd probably say my putting. I'm pretty consistent with putting. I would say, you know, I very well. People are going to start calling me out now on some videos because obviously, like anyone else, I've had horror around. Like I'd like to say I very rarely three putt. So
Hmm.
I'd be confident of two putting from anywhere on the green, and then obviously I'll get down on one, a few times. So I'd say putting. Driving wise, I'm not very long with the driver, but I'm pretty accurate. Like I would hit most fairways. So I would also say just in terms of giving myself a second shot. Um, I'm always most of the times I'm on the fairway. Very rarely will lose a ball off the tee with a driver. Irons are a different story, but yeah, my big downfall is probably my irons in that I have a two-way miss. At the moment, it's predominantly left, but I can miss it right as well. So I'm not hitting as many green and regulations as I should. Bit like you though, I've really honed in on my short game too, in terms of that's where I see my strokes gained being made, because I think none of us are ever going to hit the ball like Rory or Bryson, but there's no reason why we can't chip a ball 15 yards to
Yeah,
the same kind of. Now we don't have the same time to put in as these guys, but when you think about chipping a ball 15 feet to the proximity of the hole, like it should be reasonably easy to do with enough practice. So I have seen massive gains in my short game so far. I in that video you were talking about with my winter practice, I did say one of my plans was to never walk off a course without at least chipping a few balls, and I've been pretty true to that now so far this year. So whether I'm playing around or whether it's just going down the course, I'll always end with chipping practice, and I'm trying to build up my armory in terms of getting all the shots, so bump and runs, high lofted wedges, doing it all. And now, like I played my first kind of breaking 90 attempt there last week, and I think one of the key areas I was really impressed where I saw the most improvement was just my chipping, or more so my scrambling. So just when I needed to get up and down, or just get the ball close with my chipping, I found that my practice, I can see, is really paying off at the moment.
yeah. I mean, just when you touched on the like the bump and run shots and stuff, that's one I didn't have in my arsenal until about 2 years ago, and I worked on it a lot. I had
Mm.
my 48, my four hybrid, which is like 22 degrees, right? And I take it out my bag, and it just lies about here in the office. And if I'm walking past or I'm doing something, I pick it up, stand it up, do the wee putting stroke, and just knock balls about. And see, that now has saved me no end, and it's less embarrassing than getting a chipper out, because I have had a chipper at one point.
Yeah,
But then I'm like, I actually maybe need to learn how to play this shot properly. So yeah, I have that wee hybrid, and I'm so comfortable with just bump and run shots. I mean, depending what the bunker looks like, I'll bump and run shots over bunkers and stuff as well.
yeah,
I'm so confident with that club that I'm not going to make a mess of it. Whereas some of the time with my wedges, when I'm trying to chip them in or whatever else, I can kind of blade it a wee bit, or it comes off a
yeah.
little bit, goes somewhere, or flies too far past. But that bump and run shot now for me is probably my go-to shot in and around the greens.
Yeah, like it's very hard to look silly with a bump and run, whereas as you said, like I have a 52 and a 58 degree wedge, and I just don't use them anymore. So it's probably one of the most commented things on in my videos is that I kind of just use a pitching wedge for everything around the green. So even if I
Yeah.
am trying to go for a kind of high lofted shot or a bump and run, I'll kind of just use a pitching wedge because I feel like you can do most things with it. Where sometimes, like I suppose for me, a lot of my improvement or trying to improve in golf is just knowing what your worst miss is. And like
Mhm.
for me, like a 52 or a 58 degree can just go horribly wrong, where the ball literally moves an inch, or the club is dug in, or like as you said, you bladed off the back of the green, you could be OB or something, where that just doesn't happen with my pitching wedge. So worst case scenario, maybe I'm 10 feet from the hole instead of getting in close. So I find as a beginner, well, probably losing that title a little bit now, but it's like improvement really comes with just knowing your worst misses and just removing them from the game. So like as long as you're progressing the ball towards the hole, and you're not, I suppose, in terms of chipping, you're not just leaving the ball pretty much where you attempted to hit it from, or like if you're hitting your irons, if you're not topping or you're not fatting the ball, as long as you're progressing the ball at least say 100 yards with your irons and so on, that's where I'm kind of seeing my gains, and that's kind of where I'm really trying to lower my handicap as well.
Yeah. I mean, I play quite a bit of links golf. I've got a pal that's plays at one of the links courses in here, and I'm actually on the waiting list to get in there, actually. But I've been told it's going to be 5 years, because it's one of these like dead man shoes. You need to wait for somebody to pop their clogs before you can get a space. And I used to take wedges down there, and the first hole is into the wind, always in towards the sea, and then the next 3 or 4 holes go along the bay, and then you come back in. But the wind turns all the time, and it's all these different ones. And I was going down there with like a 60 degree, but I'm on the fairway, and there's bunkers like maybe right and left, so there's nothing for me to go over, and I'm trying to hit like a 60 degree wedge in from like 20-30 yards.
Off rock hard turf as well.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
I mean, the best score I've shot there, I think I shot like an 82 or something, and I was putting from anywhere in the fairway. At one point, I putted from like 50 yards out. I just whacked the thing. It was into the wind, but it was low, and it just made its way onto the green, and then I knocked the next one up and sunk the putt. So I suppose that technically was a 3-putt, but not really, because I don't count the one for the fairway. But that was one of the biggest things for me as well, was trying to course manage. And I think that's where a lot of high handicappers make the mistake as well. Whether they're like, this, I'm just going to pull driver on here because it's a par 4 and I have to. Well, no, you don't. Why don't you think about maybe coming back a wee bit further and playing something that keeps you in play? And then, tidying up the wee bits and pieces, like you say, knowing your misses, and what you can and can't do, tidy the wee bits up. And I think as well, we're in a fortunate position that if we go on a run of 4 or 5 good scores, the handicaps potentially would tumble, right? Whereas once you start getting down to the lower numbers, they're talking fractions and points of stuff that are coming off, and they're needing to shoot much better scores. So I think, we potentially could make a proper dent in our handicap quicker than some of the lower guys could, because they're fighting against it.
Yeah,
they're definitely a benefit for us from that side of things. So so you said obviously YouTube and things. Do you watch a lot of like YouTube instruction, or what's your thoughts on that?
I did at the start. So like when I first started playing, that's mainly what I was watching YouTube for. I was obsessed with kind of improving and getting tips off YouTube. Don't do that anymore now. I stay away from YouTube in terms of the instructions, because I've enough going on in my head without adding more, I suppose, complications. But yeah, so at the start, like obviously, I would have watched a lot of Rick Shields, being, I suppose, the godfather of YouTube golf. James Robinson, Alex Elliott, and so on. Nowadays, it's more so for entertainment. Again, I don't really, being a dad now, my son is 3, so, I don't have a whole lot of time on my hands. When I do get a chance to watch YouTube, I suppose main channel I really watch is Foreplay, which is the Barstool Sports. Like, never really missed a Trent Ryan upload. So he's on the Break 85 series now. So I've been watching him since he was shooting 120s. So it's been amazing to see him get down to where he is now. I would have like watch a bit of Bob Does Sports, bit of Golf Life with Tubes and Ange and Jimmy Bullard now. So they'd be kind of the main ones to watch. But yeah, so it's definitely more for entertainment, and I kind of like watching the series where you're actually seeing someone's progress. But at the start, I would have been a full YouTube junkie for swing tips and so on, but I wasn't getting anywhere with those.
It's definitely got its place. I know Tiger says you shouldn't watch it for YouTube, but it was just interesting. They had that guy at the Players, Yela Maraju. I know I was going to butcher his name there. Indian guy that he did well in
Yeah,
the Players Championship there, and then they interviewed him afterwards, and he's like, "Oh yeah, I watch YouTube videos. Never had a swing lesson in my life. I just watch YouTube videos."
yeah. I
Which I
only was reading his story yesterday. Apparently, he was recording himself and then I suppose matching it up to Tiger swing. So
yeah,
yeah, look, maybe I'm doing the wrong thing. Maybe I need to have another look at it, and maybe I could be playing on the tour then as well. But at the moment, I'm trying to get in-person instruction off some professionals. So
right, I definitely think that's the way to go because, as you said, there's tons of people out there. It's saturated with lessons, and they've not seen you swing. So how do they know that? Like
in,
this is a routine you need to do for chipping. Yeah, maybe some people, but not necessarily me. So that's why it's always good to go get proper instruction.
and I just find that the golf swing is so unique to the golfer as well. So I'll always get beginners reaching out to me on Instagram. Now, I don't know why, but they'll be asking me for my advice, or they might be sending me their swing and stuff. And I'm staying well clear of giving them advice. But for me, like what works for one person is not necessarily going to work for another. Like the golf swing is so complex. Each golfer will have, I suppose, their own, I don't know, tendencies or whatever. That was my mistake that set me back, I would say, a couple of years, genuinely. Like, so before I stepped foot in a golf course, I got lessons, went down. Now, I'm not going to name the instructor. He'd probably sue me for associating himself with me. But, I just thought when I took up the sport, like I am quite analytical by nature. I like being shown how to do things, and then I'm confident that I can do them myself. So I thought with golf, there was a set grip, set way of swinging it. So once you learn that, it's just practice. So that was my thinking at the time, and I was probably too hung up on the fundamentals of, well, you have to hold the club this way and it has to come back this way, and so I just lost all kind of natural feel for the swing and what I was trying to do. So again, I've the time I've seen the most improvement is when I kind of, yeah, okay, I know that there's a certain grip that'll help, and a certain way to take the club away, but I did try and go back to using a bit more of your natural, I suppose, ability, or your athletic ability, for want of a better word. Because I think if you get too hung up on the details or the correct way to do things in golf, I think you can just kind of lose all feel for it. So that's why I try and stay clear of anyone giving me tips of, well, this is what worked for me. I'm polite with it and say, oh yeah, thanks very much, I'll try it out. But it's not like I'm racing out now going, oh well, that guy told me that I should do this, and
Yeah.
it's funny because everyone tells me, oh, I'll take 5 strokes off your game. So I've been hearing that for as long as I've been playing golf, and it hasn't worked yet. So I just think that the golf swing is so unique to the golfer that you kind of just have to work. You just kind of have to find what works well for you. But obviously, then when you are getting advice, it has to come from a professional, I think.
Yeah. No, just stick to what you're doing, eh? Definitely the way forward. So
Yeah.
what's the goals for the year then? What's the kind of golf goals, and then what are the channel goals for the year? What you're looking to achieve?
Yeah, so like golf goals really is just to try and play more golf. So like last year I only played 13 rounds. I say only, my wife would be like, you played 13 rounds. But to me, I still think that that's not a whole lot of golf, because I am so golf mad. So definitely just want to get out, play more. Always want to play new courses. So I keep kind of list on my Instagram for anyone that follows it of all the courses I've played. So I think I'm up to about 45 now. So I'd like to travel a bit more around Ireland, playing a few more courses. Definitely want to get out west, up northwest as well, where some of the real iconic courses are. Would obviously, like, my main goal that I always say on my channel is sub 20. So,
Mhm.
I'd like to get below a 20 handicap. So I'm at 22.4, so I need to lose 2.5 strokes. I'll take 19.9 all day long.
Oh yeah.
As long as I get down to the teens, I'm happy. And then just in terms of the channel, yeah, just kind of like to see some steady growth, continue to see steady growth. So I'm at 13,000 subscribers now, 13,300, I think, which kind of hate saying this out loud, but I kind of looked into it. I think it makes me the biggest amateur YouTube channel in Ireland anyway.
Nice.
Yeah, so I think that Connor Moore, if you know him, he does Connor
Yeah.
Sketch, does all the impressions. So yeah, he actually has one that's about 13.9, I think. But I've been speaking to him, and he's assured me he's not going to be doing it anymore. So his is inactive. So I can, and then maybe is he considered an amateur really? You know, he's essentially a paid golfer. Well, certainly works in the golf space. But yeah, so it'd just be trying to continue that growth, try and grow the channel. I'm not sure, like I'm sure there'll be a cap eventually of where the channel can get. But for now, you know, I'd certainly like to increase that. Certainly meet new people through the channel. I do this thing called the subscriber series where, you know, I get people to invite me out to their course. They play around with me. Whoever helps me shoot the best score. So the idea is then they'd use their home course knowledge to kind of caddy me around the course essentially. And then whoever helps me shoot the best score wins a prize. So I only finished the one last year, and the winner won a free round with me at the K Club, which obviously is one of the most prestigious courses in Ireland. Yet to play it yet. We're waiting for the summer to play it. But so I'll be launching the second season of the subscriber series. So just it'd be nice to meet some new people through that, play some new courses, and have a bit of fun with that. So that's kind of the channel goals, really.
No, that's great. If you can get yourself over to Scotland at some point, then you'll be more than welcome. I can get you on the courses through here. It'd be good.
Yeah, one of my friends actually lives in Glasgow, so I was actually only over there in February. He's a member in Glen Eagles, so I was lucky enough last year to play Glen Eagles. So plan is to get back over and play Glen Eagles again this year. And there's definitely a few more courses around Scotland that I'd certainly like to play. Troon being one of them, if I could ever get on. But I saw, is it Eric Landers? Or I think he was out on, is it Walsey? It's an island off the coast of Scotland, and it has like a 9-hour course. Yeah, and like now a lot of it, like, you know, was just watching his YouTube channel, but it just looked amazing. So I suppose that's a bucket list goal of mine, is to try and get out there and play around there as well. But look, Scotland, it's the same as Ireland. Like, you know, for the amount of courses, they all seem to be top quality, like, so, you know, littered with courses, top quality courses. So I'd love to go over and actually do a trip in Scotland where I try and get 3 or 4 courses in as well.
Yeah, well, if you're like I said, when you're over to see your pal, give me a shout, and I'll certainly get you at my place, no problem. And I've got a few contacts for a couple of courses over here that we can maybe try and get you on as well. So no, listen, that was it was good to chat to you, Jamie. As I said, I really enjoyed the channel, and that's why I thought I'd reach out to you and see if I can get you on for a chat. So unless you have anything question wise for me, or anything else you want to discuss, or plug the channels, when you go, goodbye.
Well, no, first of all, it's the first podcast I've ever been on, so thanks very much for reaching out. You know, I was very flattered to be asked. As I said, haven't been on one before, so it was just nice to get the invitation. So I do appreciate you extending that invite. I just want to apologize at the top of the podcast there where I kind of went blank. That's a regular occurrence for me now, with a 3-year-old son, business, everything. I just find myself losing my train of thought, or putting stuff in the fridge that shouldn't be in there. So sorry if that comes across a bit stupid at the top of the podcast. So I just lost my train of thought completely.
No, listen, it's fine. And I tried to pride myself on the podcast being a raw, you know, like, because that's what happens. We've all got it. I have mind blips every now and again as well, and well, no problem whatsoever with that.
Yeah. So, and look, best of luck with the channel, the podcast as well. So, you know, I'll be rooting for it now, and I'm looking forward to listening to this back now, and I'll be plugging it to all my subscribers as well. So keep doing what you're doing. Really enjoy it so far, and
you too. Thanks very much, Jamie. Take care.
Cheers, Craig. Talk soon.
Cheers.
See you.